Hi, それじゃあ let's study the last lesson, the last grammar point for lesson one, which is possessive no in Japanese. Now, possession, normally we do something like apostrophe S in English. How do I do that in Japanese? If I have John's mother, as in the mother of John, how would I say that in Japanese? I have John-san no okaa-san. John-san no okaa-san. So we can see this no is basically used in the same position as apostrophe S is in English, and it means the same thing. But sometimes we don't mark possession in English with apostrophe S. So for example, we say my dog, my dog. And in that case, in Japanese, we would say watashi no inu, watashi no inu. So same grammar, we don't need to change anything about this in Japanese. It just doesn't need to be like whether we have apostrophe S or not. If we're going for the meaning of possession, how we express that in Japanese is with no. Now I can combine these two forms as well. So my friend's dog, for example, well, I have my friend, watashi no tomodachi, and that tomodachi's dog, therefore, watashi no tomodachi no inu is how we say that. I put watashi in brackets here because if you just say tomodachi no inu, we understand that it's your friend. You're not talking about some random person's friend. But if you want to be really explicit about it, watashi no tomodachi no inu is how we would say my friend's dog. I can say, of course, John's friend's dog in much the same way. John-san no tomodachi no inu. And I can even extend this and have an arbitrarily long chain of possession. So John's mother's friend's dog. In Japanese, how would I say that? Just pause the video and see if you can say it yourself. John-san no okaa-san no tomodachi no inu is how I would say that in Japanese. So John-san no okaa-san no tomodachi no inu for John's mother's friend's dog. Okay, so that's sort of the basics of possession. But in English, we can actually talk about possession in a bunch of different ways. And it's important not to get confused with word order that we use in English. So say, for example, if I say a friend of the lawyer, that's the same thing as saying the lawyer's friend. In Japanese, we would translate this as bengoshi no tomodachi. Bengoshi no tomodachi. So lawyer's friend. But if I said a friend of the lawyer, I'm still going to say it in here. I can't switch these around. If I said tomodachi no bengoshi, I would mean my friend's lawyer. My friend's attorney instead of the lawyer's friend. いいですか? All right. Now, it doesn't need to be apostrophe S also. It could be belonging in a much more abstract sense. So an employee at Toyota is some employee that belongs to Toyota. So Toyota's employee. And we would say in Japanese, Toyota no kaishain. Kaishain in your textbook, they translate as an office worker, I believe, but basically it's just a generic term for a suit. Someone who works at a company where you need to wear a necktie, basically. That's kaishain. So, Toyota no kaishain desu. And then even much more abstract, so Springfield, Illinois, as opposed to Springfield in any of the other states where Springfields exist. So we can say, oh, the Springfield belonging to Illinois, or Illinois' Springfield, which in Japanese would be Illinois no Springfield. So Illinois no Springfield would be Springfield, Illinois. And we can say this for any city-state combination. So in Japanese, it's basically big no small. So West Virginia no Huntington desu. Indiana no Indianapolis desu. Michigan no Detroit desu. And so on and so forth. For all sorts of different cities. There's another situation where we talk about, where we use no frequently, and that's in phone numbers. So if I have this phone number, for example, I pronounce that aloud. I don't typically write no, but if I'm pronouncing the hyphen, I say 012 no 3456 no 7890 is how I would say that. I can also just pause, so I can say 012 3456 7890. That's totally fine as well. But saying, if I like, we can kind of think of this as the metaphor of like, oh, it's this area code and then the local code and then the individual number. That's so again this same metaphor of big to small with area 012 no 3456 no 7890. Okay. The last use of no that is introduced at least in chapter 1 is describing types of things. So I can use this to have a Japanese teacher. What kind of teacher? A teacher of Japanese. So, 日本語の先生. 日本語の先生. So, that's our Japanese teacher. Now notice we have Japanese. We can sometimes say things like a Japanese high school, but we don't, when we in English say Japanese high school and Japanese teacher, in this case, it's a teacher of the Japanese language, but we don't mean it is a Japanese language high school. We mean that it is a high school in Japan, right? So in this case, we don't say Nihongo no, we just say Nihon no. Nihon no koukou. Nihon no koukou is how I say a Japanese high school. Nihon no koukou. But still the same grammar, right? In Japanese, it's a lot easier. I just need to remember for the word Nihon or Nihonjin or Nihongo. Am I talking about the country, the language, or people from that place? Because those are 3 different words in Japanese. And in general, I can use no just to describe one noun with another noun. So in English, for example, we can say a Pokemon game. A Pokemon game. So I have 2 nouns, Pokemon and then game. And I mean, what kind of game? A Pokemon game. So that's very similar to a Japanese teacher. And I say, Pokemon no game. Pokemon no game. Or a Godzilla movie. So, Gojira no eiga. Gojira no eiga. And so on and so forth. So, that's how I can describe one noun with another noun, talk about possession, talk about belonging. No is very useful. And hopefully, together, we'll use it quite a lot.